And yes, the first step I didn't go into clinical. Instead, I venture into corporate because I feel that I want to get exposed to a different field to get more experience. So I started with being a corporate dietitian, and then 2 years later, I ventured into academic, which is in a local private university, and hence now 5 years later, I now who I am today in private practice. I'll go through with you in these three components, and in these three components is where that how my story may go. I'll go with number one, corporate dietitian. Once I graduated, I actually choose to be in corporate, and so happened that I got to know in JobStraight, Ego Nutrition is actually a sports supplement company. I didn't choose any other corporate because I feel that Ego Nutrition is so specialized in one field, which is in exercise and sport nutrition. Then I find that probably is something that I may want to venture into, right? It so happened that in my Facebook, I have a compilation of the photo. So just in time, I used the photo. As you can see, the team at the bottom. In Ego Nutrition, the company is actually small. So basically, initially I started off as outlet nutritionist. Okay, so basically I was stationed in one outlet, and in that one outlet initially, the first day I went to the outlet, I was overwhelmed surely because there's so much product that are available in the market. I can't even know. I can't even recognize what is the product about. Like for example, in sports supplement, most of the things that the most common one is to learn about amino acid. So we get to know there's so many amino acids out there. I can't even memorize every single amino acid at that time. But in that store, you really have to go down to very deep into a certain amino acid, right? So of course, the common one amino acid will be like bunch of amino acid, leucine, leucine, valine, that kind of terms you need to know. Then later you get to know glutamine, citrulline, and so on and so forth. So there's so much of learning happening. And in sport, particularly in university, probably you only have 1 or 2 semesters to learn about it. For example, in IMU, sport and exercise, you have the basic, which is exercise science in 1 semester, and then you have exercise and sport nutrition in another semester. So you thought that you have learned enough in the university, but when you start working, you realize that what you have learned is so shallow. Right? Particularly when you come to supplementation in sport and exercise performance. So it's another, I would say that it's another shift in the experience. And of course, throughout the months, I received training from my superior. Okay, and then I stationed in one outlet as mentioned. 6 months later, I was then promoted to become the outlet supervisor. So and hence that I'm in charge in one outlet, and I also guide the staff in that outlet. And again, another, I guess 3 months later, after I was promoted, I was called up by my boss he asked me whether I'm keen to work in HQ. So this is where that I again get promoted to be in the HQ. And at that time, that I'm quite significant memory that I have is my boss says, now I'm going to get you promoted. And what you need to tell me is that what is the title that you want, and you are going to write your own job scope. So it's totally a blank paper given to me. So it's rather up to me what I want it to be, because for my boss, it says that I get you promoted is mainly because you are potential. I feel that you can actually bring the company further with your experience. So being a dietitian, of course, I name the position as corporate dietitian, and yeah, you are right that I'm going to write my own job scope as well. I drafted my own job scope rather by my boss. I signed on my own job scope, which I drafted by me. So yeah, this is where the journey starts, being a corporate dietitian. So being a corporate dietitian in the company, so the company have a lot of branches at that point in time. Even has a branch in Penang, so I need to travel as well. And my key job scope at that time, of course, is involved heavily in staff training. So I'm required to offer training to all the staff in all the branches, particularly for the new staff. I will also ask to do a product development and product registration for information supplements in Malaysia required to be registered. So and hence I have a hands-on experience in that aspect. Product development, again, you need to learn through a lot of research. You need to get to know that when one component mixed to another component, will they lead to the expected exercise performance you're looking into. So again, it's a blank paper. It's up to me to paint on it. And of course, in this company, you will meet a lot of gym fitness enthusiasts and even sport person. So a lot of challenging questions that happen throughout the years, because during with those gym fit, what they're looking into is outcome. Okay, and being a dietitian, we always say is food comes first, and food is always a foundation in all the aspects. So and hence you need to learn how you're going to coach your client to make the best from their lifestyle. And with the supplementation, this is where the exercise performance will get improved, and hence they will see outcome accordingly. All right. Now again, supplementation for supplement, if they really use it correctly, they actually will consume it quite fast. So they'll come back to you quite soon. So being a corporate dietitian in an outlet, also several outlets, you need to recognize your own client at some point. You need to know what they're taking, even though there's no documentation to be done on the spot. So this is one of the aspects that I guess in the outlet it's quite fun in that way, I would say. And of course, not just in the outlet, I also provide external training to the gym out there. So because some of the product is own made, we actually sell, the company actually sell the product to some of the gym. So we're required to train the trainer per se. So train a trainer is even, I wouldn't say it's easy, instead it's actually harder, all right? Because honestly speaking, for the typical trainer, you know that they have a certain ego in it. So we have to deal with it quite sensitively, and you cannot outshine the trainer, all right? So you have to let the chance for the trainer to shine, to share the experience, to share their to input as well when it comes to supplement, right? As long as you are able to build a good relationship with the trainer, then likely this is where that you will get a good sales from there, all right? So that time we actually provides products to Chief Fitness. So again, the Chief Fitness has so many branches those years where from Johor up to Penang. So again, I need to do training from Johor up to Penang, that kind of situation, right? And again, in working in a sports supplement company in the outlet, occasionally you will actually meet some of the famous models, some of the famous actor or actress in the outlet. Particularly one of the bunch that I visited, for example, in the Curve or Bukit Bintang, this is where that you will see them quite often. And again, honestly speaking, yes, they're probably quite popular. They are quite famous. Actually, they are quite good in person. And certainly, there's always two sides of the story. You will meet the extreme client as well, when they actually challenge you with multiple questions. So and hence, in this supplement company, you must be able to equip yourself with the right knowledge. Okay, you have to work beyond, or even you have to work different or stand out compared to other salesperson, right? Because if you are able to deliver the knowledge that they are seeking, they will actually come back to you. Not because so much of the again, in this fitness industry, is very body driven, so it means that they will actually look at your outlook as the key. But one day you are able to prove to them by knowledge, so the outlook is no longer a significant aspect. Instead, they actually salute you with your knowledge, right? So this is where that the journey started in this year in the corporate side. So I would say that 2 years in this company is rather short, right? So the things I learned is actually still limited. But I enjoy the journey in this company because you make so much of friends, you make friends with your client, you talk to the client, their ups and downs and so on. So the good thing working in outlet is that you somehow share the journey, because if you're really good to them, they actually will share quite a bit their life up and down with you, and you are somehow become the listener to them, and hence they will actually come back to you. Sometimes it's not because the product is good, some probably just your service is good, and hence they come back. So in outlet, being the product trainer or being the staff trainer, I always tell my staff is that service is always a priority, even though some of the customer come to the outlet may not be looking for product, they may actually look for knowledge. So it's fine that you may not be able to sell any product, but at least you need to share the knowledge to them, because you never know, one day they actually come back to you just because they trust you. All right, so this will be 2 years that I'm working in Ego Nutrition. And the same year, I think I graduated 2012, and I worked for a year. And then in that 2013, this is where that I get involved in Malaysian Dietitian Association. Because honestly speaking, working in Ego Nutrition, the workload is not as high. So being a fresh graduate, the passion in me is kind of flaming so strong that I feel I need to work beyond. And hence I started to volunteer myself. And one day I actually read through the website, all right? So I saw Diet Link, which is a newsletter in Malaysian Dietitian Association at that time. And I actually personally take the initiative to email to the editor, which is Miss Mushida, the current Assistant Secretary now, to express my interest in contributing services or articles to the newsletter. So this is where the story goes, and this is also where I take my first step in Malaysian Dietitian Association. And when it started, I still remember that there's once an AGM and also the MDA conference. And there's an election ongoing to look for a council member. And just because of the contribution that I have, and also probably my passion that in me, my lecturer or even Ms. Mushida, being the editor at that point in time, supported me to take up the election. And hence I started 2012 to be elected in the Malaysian Dietitian Association council member. And with that, this is where there are a lot of influx of opportunity coming in. All right, so I'm representing MTA to go up to in a TV interview. I also representing MTA to get interviewed in the magazine and so on. All right, so I can't find some of the relevant photo about magazine. So this is one of the magazine that I get interviewed, and of course this is not at that time. So I remember that the magazine interview is kind of magazine is quite sudden, right? So a lot of learning happened throughout the past, throughout the beginning of the first 2 years in Malaysian Dietitian Association, because at that time I was assigned to in charge of website resources as well as outreach, these 3 components. And also because of that, this is where now you can see the new page of Malaysian Dietitian Association. The website has been revamped at that point in time. And there's honestly, I can tell you is that making up a website is a long process. It's not something that easy, because building up the website means that you need to put in content. You then need to consider what is the content that you're going to put in. You also need to consider how the structure of the website going to be. You also need to view from a visitor point of view how a person visit the website, where are they going to, and how does that lead them to each page of the website. So it's so much technical. So I come from a direct background. I do not have any IT background. So I need to start learning all this. So fortunate that I met some of the IT technician where we engage them to build the website. I learned from that person how to make up a website and how the layout of the website should be. And there's so much of consideration to be in. So initially, you really thought that website, just a website, but honestly speaking, without content, the website is not going to be alive. You need the content to amaze the visitor, right? So it's so long journey to actually make up the website. And even for now, honestly speaking, the development of the website is still ongoing, okay? So from slowly, we actually detach the website with another separate, which is the member site. All this is because we receive input, feedback. We also get to know that probably we need to improvise from years to years. Okay? So this is where all these things happen. It brings me to the part and parcel of being the part and parcel of entrepreneurship. Okay? So I wouldn't say that entrepreneurship will happen in one day. It's actually cumulative for me. And it's really throughout the journey, you will learn slowly. In MBA, I also need to organize events because it's outreach. I need to look for people. I need to do headhunting. I need to recruit volunteers. I need to manage volunteers. I need to know how much I need to pay. I also need to liaise with them. I need to liaise with the organizer. So all this you can see is that you learn all this is to somehow prepare you in the future, all right? And that time I really not categorize. I really learn whatever come to me, all right? Yes, it's busy. I have my full-time job. I also have MBA to manage, but I would say all this experience bring me who I am today, right? Particularly like media interview. You may thought that in media interview is so fun, you get the fame, everyone look at you. While speaking, most of the time in media interview, you may not get paid. You instead get a lot of instant stress because the media interview is not come like 1 month ago. It may actually come just a few days ago. So they just charge you with a list of questions and you need to prepare for that question. But on the day, the MC may not ask you those questions. All right. So you need to be prepared. There's one significant moment that I have in the media interview is that I thought that they only ask or they follow according to the flow or the question that they share with you early on. But who knows, there's one moment that MC or the host open up for phone call. All right. So that really a wow moment, and that question is totally not relevant to what the topic that we discuss. And a very for me, it's very memorable because I still remember the question asked is that, what food should I eat to grow my hair? Okay, in the media interview, you are already so stressful, and now with an open phone call, put you further to be in stress. So at that point in time, I actually have a cold sweat, but you just have to remind yourself to be calm. And you just have to answer what you know in your mind. At some point, if you do not know how to answer, I guess it's fine for us to acknowledge the question, and also it's fine for us to admit our limitation. And then you need to tell the person is to give some context so that you can actually get back to that question later on personally. All right. So this is actually quite I would say another fun in media interview, especially in the live section. Okay, so yes, in MBA, these are things that I learned throughout the years, and there's so much more to learn when you come to event management, you come to media interview, you come to handling volunteers and so on. Right? Now, this is where 2 years later, I called by IMU, which is also my previous university, to go back to IMU to teach. So this is one group of students that I have 2 years back. This is only one small group. And IMU, as if you are aware, student is always in large group, right? It can be from 40 plus up to 60 plus, they call number. So each time you may actually have to train half the group or even quarter of the group. So the student load is actually quite high, right? It just, I go back to IMU, I feel that I need to contribute back being an alumnus, okay? And I feel that it's also I personally, I feel that it's also my responsibility to teach, or my responsibility to engage with my juniors, and hence I actually went back to IMU to teach, right? So from sport nutrition or exercise nutrition, now shift to academia, another whole new dimension at that point in time, right? Because you really thought that in teaching, impact on knowledge to your student, but actually it's not. If you really look into how your lecturer deliver the lecture, it's not really our job scope. It's not only to impart the knowledge. We have to make sure that you learn. And once we get to know you learn, we need to know that you know how to apply. When you know how to apply, then we need to ensure that how you're going to apply it into the right context, and hence patient safety and so on all come along professionalism. So teaching is another whole new dimension. In IMU, you have so much of workshop you require to attend to make yourself a good educator or in academia. All right. So in the past 5 years, I'm so fortunate. I also avoided with the Outstanding Clinical Instructor Award. In the first year, I guess it's the first time in MDA giving out this award together with another CI in UPM. So both of us are quite fortunate in that sense. So teaching is something that you really have to come from your passion. And for those of you, if you feel that you're really passionate to teach, I guess being a clinical instructor is kind of a good start. And slowly when you're going to do postgraduate and so on, this is where it will show the staircase to the academic. Later on, you'll become a lecturer and so on. Okay? And in IMU, not just teaching, we require to service. So in Hospital Tengku Jaffa, this is our key hospital that we deal with. And we have a clinic every Friday required to service. So this is also one of the part that I will need to, one of the role being a clinical instructor, right? And of course, in IMU, we also have our own clinic. So all dietitians require to service in that clinic, okay? So as you can see that from sport or exercise nutrition, now go to clinical or even go to academic. So it's really another dimension shift. So it's so much for me to unlearn and relearn. And with that 2 years, so much practices or even science have changed. So I just have to keep up myself with all those changes. Unfortunately, of course, you require support from the faculty or even from the peers, then it will actually make sure that your journey is always good. All right. Now, I talk a lot of good things about academic, but surely they also have downside of it. And being a student, actually, you get to know that you rely on your clinical instructor a lot. And being a clinical instructor, we not just being a teacher, we also need to be a listener. We also need to be your coach. And basically, being an instructor or a lecturer, you have multiple roles. It's not just being a teacher so simple. We also need to deal with you being a student, the ups and downs in your life, all right? So that you are able to get through your degree accordingly. Mm-hmm. So the downside of it is that you need to take up the stress, all right? You need to learn. You need to work beyond what you needed to be. So working hours is not 9 to 5 thing. So probably is your working hours may actually run 24 hours or even 7 days in a week, because you must be there for a student to, you must be there with a student to go through the journey. Particularly, I believe for a fresh graduate, you have gone through the final year training, and you know that in that journey is so stressful, okay? So being a clinical instructor, we need to help you to absorb some of the stress and required to guide you through the whole journey. So at some point, clinical instructor is not just the one that imparting the knowledge to you, and somehow we also will absorb some of the stress from you, right? To make sure that you're really able to get through the journey, right? Now, being clinical instructor, again, at some point, I find that students will not just learn from me. I also learn from a student, because you are the one that who's going to study the most, and you're probably the one that who learn the latest practice and guideline. And I actually find quite fortunate is that this is where two-way sharing happen, right? Now, when I'm talking to you now, you may find that I'm a very nice person. You can actually ask my ex-student how cool I am or how fierce I am in the final year training. But when all this year pass, honestly speaking, I have no regret. We have a strict period of time. We also have the fun time. We have the serious moment come to teaching during the working hours. We have fun time after working hours, eating together, have dinner together, or even joke together. So being a teacher, somehow I will view that it almost become your parents or even your peers, right? So I guess if you've gone through the 5 years, you will somehow find this happen in your lecture or in your CI as well, right? And again, in that past 5 years, I also slowly get exposed, started to some of my entrepreneurial journey, because I would then get invited to deliver talk in the bank. I also get invited to offer some KAHS services in some of the clinic. I also invited to do grocery shopping and with some education component in it, right? It's pretty fun when it comes to entrepreneurship. And the entrepreneurship means is that you are your own boss. You're going to be the one that who's going to draft your own journey. You'll also be the one that who's going to paint how the nutrition care you want it to be, or how the program is going to be, all right? And some of the program that is currently still, or some of the services currently that I'm still in, all right? So again, you can see that pass and parcel. And why you may actually ask why I will get be invited. Somehow is recognition. If you someday you're doing good things, and people will talk about it. When people talk about it, is where the news will spread. All right. Now, when news spread, it means that you will soon get referral. And when you get referral, it is where that you'll get people engage you for services. All right. Now you can see that one part being a full-time dietitian in the local university, and another part I also started some entrepreneurship. Some point you need to know to be transparent and to be honest to your full-time employers. Okay, you require to get their consents about it. Okay, now for those, of course, for a good boss or good leader, they actually allow you to do entrepreneurship, because this is where you will shine and you will grow. All right. So, and I'm quite fortunate that IMU is quite supportive for me to run some of the activity out there to get myself exposed, as well as to get experience as well. Okay. Now come to my private practice. In the past 5 years, when I'm servicing in IMU, in the local university, at the same time, I also servicing in Malaysian Dietitian Association, I get so much exposure. I also develop so strong network with the industry or even in the outside world. And to the extent that somehow you get referrals from the friends, you get referral from the company previously have engaged you to your services, right? So and hence I find that someday, yes, probably I need to step up. And at the same time, I always tell my student in IMU is that if you feel your heart going to ask you to do something, probably it's time for you to follow your heart and follow your passion. I always say that if you feel that you want to get exposed to something that you're interested in, by all means, go ahead. And now I have to lead my roles, all right? I have to follow my heart, and I need to pursue my passion, and hence I jump into private practice. And private practice means is that I'm being my own boss. I'm going to draft my own working schedule. I'm going to draft my own services. And in St. John Medical Center is one of the medical center currently that I'm engaging in. And I'm working in a contract part-time basis. So it means I only service 2.5 days in the center. And in this flyer is actually one of the live talk that we have. I showed this flyer, we have a few flyers, and this is one of it that I worked together with Dr. Mustafa, with one of the pediatric surgeon, well-known pediatric surgeon in Malaysia. And basically, he refer quite a bit of patient to me. Honestly speaking, about 90% of my patient load is come from Dr. Mustafa. Right? In 1 week, I received pediatric cases is about 12 cases to 16 cases. So as you can see, I need to talk about pediatric in a week time about 12 to 16 cases, 16 times about pediatric. And I've been servicing in this center for a year, 12 months, right? So this month is September, basically just nice for 12 months. Imagine if you round up one week, I need to talk about pediatric for 10 times. All right, 1 year you have 50 plus weeks. You can imagine how much I talk about pediatric care. All right, 10 times 50, easy for calculation. I have to talk about it in the past 1 year 500 times. Now, a lot of us probably will think, Carrefour, wouldn't you feel bored about it? You have been doing it so many times, all right? For me, no. For me, it's very fun. Why? Because somehow when you repeat certain things to the extent that you master it, this is where slowly you are able to find out the loophole of your own education, your loophole of your own services. And with your client feedback and so on, this is where you improvise each time. Okay, and in this medical center, my first case in pediatric care, it sucks, I can tell you, right? So I probably only cover a very basic component in pediatric. Well, throughout this month, I only slowly get to know that pediatric is something that's so broad, right? It's actually affecting one person's life after all, right? You need to walk through the journey with your client. The moment that they're unable to drink, unable to eat, challenging of swallowing, challenging of digesting food. So all this feedback you require to work closely with your patient, all right? For information, in medical center, pediatric care is affecting your patient quite seriously. So I actually even share my contact with my patient. So again, in this medical center, being a dietitian, offering your services to the maximum to your patient, you basically means that you're going to stand by for a patient 24 hours or 7 days in a week, including somehow if you're going to travel nighttime out of your office hour. If so happens that the patient is going to text you to ask you certain things, I guess it's also my responsibility to respond to them, because honestly speaking, when they text you, it means that it's something urgent. So it's really have to let you to bound how far you want to offer service to your patient, right? So if you really, again, you're going to do good things and you're going to do good for a patient, your patient will value your service, right? So, and we really have to work it out as such, right? So, and this pediatric center, in this medical center, not just pediatric care. Another aspect that I look into is ostomy nutrition, whereby it means is that there's also a GI surgeon in here. Either it's actually upper GI or lower GI. Upper GI means that sometimes the patient required to go through a stomach removal or partial stomach removal. Or if you're going to look into colon, it's either they're going to have an ileostomy or colonostomy happen. That means it's either they have no colon, shorter colon, they probably the food may not be able to even pass through the large colon and get into ileostomy. All these have a lot of nutrition implication, right? So this is also another aspect that I'm looking into. And you may actually ask why there's so many medical centers. I didn't choose, but I choose this one because I find that it's time for me to look for my key area of interest. And in this medical center, it's very GI focused. So probably it's a good chance for me to get into. And I get to know this vacancy is mainly again by friends referral and friends recommendation. So this is where you can see that if you're doing good things, you definitely will get referral. You definitely will get recommendation from someone to get certain job, right? And of course, I also serving in Cubins. Cubins actually is the food appliances company. You may actually wonder what is the role put in there in the food appliances company. Now, as I mentioned, it's food appliances. So it means is that you are going to provide input education, all right, when someone going to purchase a food appliances, all right. And this Cubins is a juicer company. they also have cooking appliances. You require, of course, who are looking into juicing and so on, they have a very health conscious manner. You're required to guide your client to use appliances. You need to develop recipe to use the product and so on. And in Cubins, I have a team of dietitian and nutritionists in it, right? So, and during my terms of service, I actually created a page we call as a Cubins Wellness, where it's actually led by the team, nutritionist and dietitian in there, all right? And because of this team, we develop education material and encourage healthy eating. We also receive one-to-one consultation. We do corporate events, all right? We also even run, the fun thing is currently like live session in the Facebook, okay? So it's all this actually learned throughout the whole journey, all right? Now, again, from last time being in corporate, now I go back to corporate again. So it's not something that tough, it's just that your product now is different, okay? Now, Cubins, I actually service is for a few months. I didn't continue the service because, honestly speaking, I really have to cope with the current work that I have. At some point, probably I would say that I'm unable to cope with the commitment that I have. And you have to be fair to the employer if you can't cope, all right? So same goes to me. I actually have an open and honest discussion with Cubins' boss as well to say that I really have to make an option. This is the max that I can do. And Cubins is actually very, very open-minded. Imagine I was actually servicing a medical center 2.5 days. And then in Cubins, I'm going to service for another 3 days. Okay? And then the first negotiation that I have before I leave Cubins is that I requested to work only one day in a week. And then Cubins is still allowed me to do so. And later on, of course, I feel that it's quite bad to continue with that. That kind of last week, and hence I talked to a boss to leave the company, let's say. But of course, before I leave, I have to ensure that my team know what they're going to do. So it means that during my terms of service, I basically have already put down the roadmap for them to follow. They're also familiar with the goal they're going to achieve. So even though I'm going to leave the company, I have to ensure that the team is actually still running, right, accordingly, right? So this is where that I'm in Cubins. And again, Cubins is a food appliances company. It's all about dollar and cent. Medical center is about your services. So if you do good to your patient, you receive good patient feedback, then your definitely performance will as good. Cubins, dollar and cents means is that if you make good money to the company, then you are considered as a good staff, all right? So this is where that in Cubins, you need to know how you're going to channel your education into money. That is really another whole new aspect to learn and a whole new things for me to brainstorm how I make it happen, right? Again, education takes time, and there's a lot of work I have to put in during that few months, and it's also required to learn from the management team. In Cubins Wellness, I'm being a senior dietitian. I basically was part in the management team, and so good that quite a good member of them have a very good corporate experience. This is where that with the experience and you can enjoy the meeting, you actually learn quite a bit from them how to run the business, right? Next thing, I also in Soul Food. In Soul Food, I'm act as a training education manager. Soul Food is actually a catering catering business per se. And again, Soul Food is offering in a healthy menu, and the menu itself is actually designed or even read through by dietitian and nutritionist in there. The chef is actually working with, in food service, you have to ensure that chef working closely with you, because to translate your message into the food, you require the chef to help you. And again, when you come to recipe development, you also require the chef to help you along the way, because the chef knows taste better than us, honestly speaking. So they also need to know, they're actually also able to give you quite good input. What can you switch, what ingredient to switch to what ingredient. So working to chef in this company is become another new world, right? So as I mentioned, my title is involved in training and education. All right. So this is where that my services is mainly focusing in one-to-one consultation. All right. My services is deliver nutrition talk to a group of people within certain interests. So I also involved in corporate wellness program, and yeah. So this will be some of the my role in soul food as well. All right. So now you may actually wonder, with 3 jobs in hand, being a private practice, how I'm going to get through. Well, if you choose to be in private practice, this is your life, right? So you just have to get yourself ready. Is it enough? No. I have another center to service, which is On-Call Life Center. This center is actually owned by an oncologist, as you can see, On-Call Life. So all the clients that I see, especially people living with cancer, they are cancer survivor, right? Now in this center, it's by referral basis. I don't go there every day. I only visit this center in the referral basis. So means if I receive referral, I only go to this center. Cancer specific, oncologists, it means that they will have daycare. They are doing chemo in the center. And cancer is something that's very close to my heart, right? Because of I have family member who have cancer, and I get to know how tough the process is going to be. And yes, in this center, I do something different. The first session for my client is basically it's not so much talking about nutrition, but it's for them to share the experience of getting to know they have cancer. Because in order to make sure that your nutrition education get into their brain, you make sure that there's not much of noise in their brain. The noise actually comes from the stage of denial. The noise can also come from verism. It can become from the anxiety that they have. So being a dietitian, I somehow also act as a counselor. I need to be their pair of ear. I need to listen to them. How do they actually cope with that diagnosis and the journey? What is the journey is going to be? It's good to preempt them at some point. If they are mentally prepared, so this is where the nutrition come in is much easier. To the extent that the first session of the consultation, you may actually see your patient cry, which is fine because cry is a way to relieve stress. So you have to be mentally prepared to deal with all this heavy emotion with your patient. Okay. And again, in this center, I also share my contact number to my client as well, to their family member as well, because you know that most of the time, if they get to have cancer, they start to restrict their food. This is one of the things that I always be my concern. And this is always the first thing that I need to remind them about when it comes to food and unnecessary food restriction, right? The journey can be, they may actually going through a several cycle of chemo. They may require to go through surgery, or they may actually come to you after surgery and so on. So that journey becomes very precious. You walk through the journey with them, all right? Now, is that always positive outcome in patient living with cancer? Well, if you are working in the medical line or in clinical setting, you know that the journey is not always positive, all right? People comes and go. When I say go, it means that they may actually pass, all right? So, and you need to be mentally strong to deal with death per se, right? You also somehow require to talk to the family member, to discuss with the family member or even the patient about death at some point, okay? That is nothing to be, for me, it's nothing too scary about, because if your client or patient is well prepared with the process, they can actually pass with good dignity. They can actually pass with good respect as well, right? So that is not something that is scary about. We need to somehow deal with it together with your client throughout the whole process. As long as you deliver good support for them, they are mentally prepared, and basically that is considered a good outcome for your patient or their family member as well. So come to patient care, it's not just the patient itself, it's also involve the people around them. So, and hence, in clinical setting, I would say, I always take one step forward. I always deliver beyond what it should be being a dietitian, because it's always good to walk the journey together with them. It's always good to be together with your patient to get through the whole process. Okay, so in Onco Life, quite good is that there's not much admin work. The staff will help you to do all the appointment, the calling, and so on. So you can actually skip the admin work, right? So, and somehow if you're going to do the outside services, then you have to do all the admin work by yourself, right? Yes. I finished my journey, and probably just a quick one to let you guys know. A day as an entrepreneur, so much up and down. If you do good things, you definitely you will think of yourself positively, and someday the outcome may not be as good or may not even meet your expectation. You may have even down day, right? Being an entrepreneur, you just have to be your own pair of ears. You need to do your own reflection. You need to improve from time to time. Okay. Now always remember, even though there's failure, you need to be ready to learn from it. If you one day you fall now, you just have to learn to get back yourself up again. Because in entrepreneurship, you're basically quite a loner. In entrepreneurship, you basically have to deal with things by yourself, all right? So until you're able to get a team, then probably they will help you to share your load. For now, I'm independent, so I have to deal with it with all this, all right? Now I'm going to share with you some of the steps that probably you require to, all right? I'm not so sure I'm running out of time to get through. And Dr. Hasira, should I continue?
Yes, please. Okay. I think we get a question. How do you get yourself hired, and how do you get started? The first steps, I think.
Okay. All right. So I hope that I address your question, go one by one. How did I get myself started? Honestly speaking, entrepreneurship for me is not a switch I want to turn on and turn on. And I think it's actually part and parcel throughout. Okay? From the day that I graduated from IMU, all right, I learned small components about entrepreneurship. And I also volunteer myself to get myself exposed. You need to get yourself known, because being entrepreneurship, it means is that you need to get business. Whether a business is going to be passive, that means that they will come automatically to you, or you become active. You need to look for the business. All right. Now, regardless active or passive, you need to get yourself known. All right. So you need to talk about it. You need to show it. Okay. You need to be passionate about it. When people can see the fire in you, all right, you shine, then this is where that you'll get the business. I would say that entrepreneurship actually started upon my graduation, probably also when I joined MDA. I get to learn to organize event. I started to have engagement or contact with industries, for example, Nestle, for example, Baxter, some of the big company. When I work with them, if you're going to do good things to them, they remember you. If anything, they actually will get back to you. Like some of the magazine interview that I have, just because you work with the editor quite well, they feel that you can able to commit to the task in a short period of time, they will actually get back to you at one day, right? At some point, even the editor move from one media company to another, she will still remember you at some point, okay? So this is where that you always have to remember, get yourself exposed, all right? Show what you can do it with a great passion, all right? Somehow it's also fine that to take one step further to deliver more than you should be to impress someone so that they'll recognize you by heart, all right? You need to stand up when you're going to deliver service. and you're going to do something, make sure that you really stand up in a good way, lah, right? It's not stand up in the bad way, right? So if I ask myself, when is my first step? I can't even remember when is my first step. I can't remember what is my first step. But if you ask me to guess, probably I feel that volunteering in MBA is actually one of my first steps to get into entrepreneurship. All right, so I hope that answers your question. And next, what to consider if you want to be in entrepreneurship. Now, I would say entrepreneurship again is not the overnight thing. You require to build your network. If you have your network, those are your channel of business. All right, so it's like a tree. In order to absorb the nutrient, you need the roots. The root must be branches. Okay? It must branch out in order to get the most nutrient from it. The deeper you go, probably you will get the most nutrient. Right? Similar to entrepreneurship, it depends on how deep your network is going to be. Okay. Now again, when it comes to network, it means is that you need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to meet people that probably you doesn't like to meet. You need to meet people that probably is also not in your circle. Right? You may even need to meet people that is not the same level as you. It could be much higher than you. Okay. So this is where that you build network. For example, when I doing volunteering, I meet people in the higher level in the industry, in Nestle, in Baxter, or even some other industry as well, right? So somehow rather, I guess in university, I still remember IMU have asked me if you want to add a new component into the curriculum, what should you propose? I think somehow working adequate then will be important. It means that you need to know how in your dining restaurant, how should you eat? In a conversation, how is your gesture should be? All this, I think we need to learn, because when you're being put in a certain situation where you're going to meet a high level of people, you need to act differently to show politeness. All right? So I think the gesture, the etiquette, and so on is kind of crucial at that part. And entrepreneurship, not just about all this. At some point, you need to consider if you're going to deliver a nutrition care. For example, if you're going to give a nutrition consultation, how much you're going to charge? Okay, with that charge rate, are you on par with the market rate? Are you on par with the dietitian the same level as you? Right? You also need to know that in your consultation, how are you going to stand up? Do you require to develop your education material? Are you still using the material in the university? If you're using material in the university, it means that you are no longer using your own things. There's no branding. So you need to have your own branding. Okay? Later on, you also need to consider if you're going to deliver a top 1 hour, how much you're going to charge the company. Are you going to give free? Right? Now for now, probably I need to emphasize, whenever possible, do not give free talk. Right? Because you're going to share your expertise. You need to value your expertise. All right. Now, again, in entrepreneurship, in business, it means is that there always buyer and seller. You need to buy, you need to sell something for people to buy. All right. Now, in that exchange, you need to exchange something that with similar value. And when it comes to value, the value may not be money. It could be something else. So you need to identify what is the value. This is where that somehow the evaluation talk make sure that it's not free per se. You may not actually receive money. Make sure that there's the same value that this exchange happen. Okay, that one is crucial, right? So not just that, somehow people may actually ask you if I pass you a few recipe to vet through to analyze the nutrient content, how are you going to charge? So you need to consider all this. So you're being the person who is going to set all this. In order to set all this, you need to have a preliminary experience what is in the market. You need to know the market. Right? Now, before you get all these businesses, you also need to do your own branding. What is good, so good about yourself? So you need to keep on highlighting your own strength. Right? Now, where that all of us have weakness. Okay? Now, when it comes to business, you do not highlight your weakness. You have to highlight your own strength. And your strength must be outshine your weakness. Okay? The weakness, you have to cope with it, you have to manage it, but your strength must outshine. Okay? Your people around you must know what is so good about you. If you know you yourself is good in something, you have to magnify it, you have to maximize it. Okay? For example, if you ask me what am I good about, actually it's still a tough question for myself. I would say that the good things I am is actually in terms of patient care, patient service. I'm a good listener. I negotiate with my patient quite well. I actually deliver nutrition messages quite well. I actually able to simplify all the messages. All right. I even take one step further. I will actually care about their family member and so on. So communication probably is my strength. And hence I actually use that as my strength. Right. At some point I also need to know, you need to slowly develop what is your key focus of interest. For example, now with my certification, with my experience now, pediatric care and weight management is my key area, as well as GI nutrition is also one of my key area. So maybe when you're going to identify your own key area, if you're going to continue to practice about it, you have to show it, you have to tell people, right? Because when you're going to do that, then people know when necessary, when they encounter certain cases, then they know that you are here to help. They will then refer to you. Okay, so yeah, so in entrepreneurship, there's so much that you need to consider. You need to consider your own product. What is your product? For me, consultation is one of the product. For me, okay, so even a corporate wellness program is also a product. So you need to know what is in your hand. What can you do? All right, so what are you good at? If you know you are good at something, then you have to market it. You have to advertise it. You have to talk about it. All right. So being an entrepreneur, there's so much factor that you need to consider. Right. Being an entrepreneur is also somehow to know that you are the own boss. Right. You may not even have EPF receipt. Right. Now this is also another thing that I want to remind you in entrepreneurship. If you have no EPF, if you have no consistent income, it also means that it's a bit hard for you to get loan. Right? It's a bit tough for you to get loan for car, it's a bit hard for you to get loan for your housing, for house and so on. Okay? So you need to know how to report all these numbers in documented in certain way so that it help you to manage all the loans and apply loans later. Okay? Again, university is not going to teach you all this. You have to learn all about it. That's why I mentioned that in entrepreneurship, somehow or other, you are a loner. You have to learn it by yourself. You have to ask someone to coach you throughout the journey, right? Entrepreneurship, most of the time, my advice is that do not immediately jump into it. You need to shadow someone for a certain period of time. Learn from a certain company that you are actually admire to. Learn from it. A few years down the road, if you feel that you are ready with a very strong network down below, then probably you can venture into entrepreneurship. All right. Next thing, you're graduating soon. Now what? Right. Now this will be probably the last slide that I'm going to share. Is that being a fresh graduate, honestly speaking, nothing you can negotiate. All right. The only things that now is you are like a blank paper. You have to paint your own. You have to put your own colors into the white paper. So you are pretty flexible. You probably have to consider where you want to go. All right. Now, do not limit yourself. At some point, even my student will tell me that, Mr. Dang, I want to go into clinical. I don't want to go to food service. I don't want to go into community. No, you have to keep your option open because you never know where you will be led to in that door. All right. Do not close the door because somehow you may not be able to directly go to the point B, right? But certain doors may actually lead you indirectly to the point that you want to be, right? So do not close any door. Opportunity comes, grab it, perform. Because when you perform well, you're going to build your portfolio. When you build your portfolio, this is where that you have a chance to beautify your CV. Okay, this is where that with the more portfolio that you build, your CV getting better. This is where you can negotiate a better job later on. right? Or you may even shine in that company, go to a higher level, right? So probably at that point you thought that you want to go to point B, but who knows, you may actually change thought at some point, right? You may actually slowly go into another point, maybe point B, point Z, okay, point X, and so on, right? Make yourself fluid. I think this is important. Make yourself flexible. Do not limit yourself for now. Now, I would say that if you have a chance, if you feel that at this meanwhile you're unable to get a job and you're not plan to get a job, you are still lost, by all means, look for certain internship in the places that you want to be. Learn from the senior, learn from the superior, or learn from the company. This way is also a good way to test out whether that field is good for you or not. Whereas say internship, again, you may not get salary. At some point, you may need to pay for it. But again, this all about experience. If you're not rushing for a salary, your family is not going to desperately need your pay. I guess keep yourself open, apply for internship. If you feel that you want to be in certain medical center, okay, to get some more experience, I guess internship is a good way to start, right? Again, if you want to go to some other areas, corporate areas, if there's no vacancy, probably propose an internship would be a good way to start. You never know, one day you're going to get a full-time job in the company that you're interested in. All right. Another point to make. By graduation, you're going to receive a degree in dietetics. This is just a ticket. Do not confine yourself by the ticket, right? Because I know that some of the graduates, you may not want to pursue further in dietetics. It's okay, totally fine to jump field, to change field, okay? No one going to stop you. It's your journey. You're going to path your own journey, all right? So do not stop yourself, all right? So if you feel that you're interested into it, passionate about it, go for it, okay? And if you're a person that who really requires salary, well, if you are looking for money so urgently and so on, you need the money to survive and so on, I guess you just have to keep your option open. Even though there's a vacancy in corporate, you just have to apply and go for it. Any company that you feel is good, you just have to apply for it, because if you are urgent for money, you are urgently to get a job, right? If you're going to start your job early, get your experience, it's also easy for you to you also get earlier to build your CV. Probably if you're able to get more portfolio built up in your CV, it's also good for you to negotiate much early, right? So these are advice I'm giving to fresh graduate, and I hope that you will find this session helpful, and I hope I didn't talk too much. Probably now is to open Q&A if there's enough time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kafu. I think this is, we learned a lot from your session, and we have few burning questions here.
Sure.
All right. So Farhana, do you want to ask Mr. Kafu? Can you open your speaker and ask?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. Okay, so I'm Farhana. I'm actually a graduate from UIA, and right now I'm actually a dietitian in Naluri. I'm pretty sure that you know Naluri. Yeah.
I hope my name has been removed from there.
Don't think so. I don't know. Yeah, even my colleague is actually your student. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, this is a very cliche question, but I still want to know. Okay, so basically, because like your work progression is like there are so many things that you did before, right? So I just wonder, like, how do you actually balance everything with life? Like, okay, I know that this is very cliche, but I really want to know that how do you do this? Because I really wonder, like, if people can do like so many things in life, like, do they still have interest or hobbies or your interests and hobbies is basically only diet. So yeah, that's what I want to ask. And then like, what is your ultimate goal that make you like very determined and also persistent into journey? Okay, so I guess that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Anna. There are a few questions there. I will answer one by one. If I miss any, please remind me to do so. All right. And number one is that how am I balance my life? Honestly speaking, if you're going to come into entrepreneurship, it means is that you're going to commit to yourself 24 hours, 7 days without off day. All right. And similarly, it's like as just now I shared, I actually pass my contact to all the clients and patients that I deal with. They basically can contact me anytime. All right. For me, I feel that if I want to be in that journey, I need to get myself ready. And again, your patient actually they know, right? At what point, at what time they will need to call you. All right. Most of the time, if they're going to contact you out of office hour, that means is that those are the burning question in them. So they hope to get clarified. All right. So it's fine at some point to entertain them. Again, if you are going to be busy in some sort, by all means, you actually can respond to them to get back to them later. And hence actually somehow I'm also a bit OCD. I doesn't like my WhatsApp to have a green spot text that unreply. It's not healthy for information. It's not healthy, right? Because somehow it's a bit OCD. You just have to learn to manage it, right? If you feel that you're not going to answer now, you can actually read the text message. You know that it's not going to be urgent. Then you can actually politely mention to them lah. So probably you're going to reply them this time. So sorry about it. So I hope you understand. But most of the time they actually understood quite well, right? Now work-life balance at some point, I guess my friends they also get to know as long as I'm typing something on my phone, it means that I'm replying to a work text. All right, so your friends somehow will be quite understanding about it as well, right? I guess being an entrepreneur, if you're doing good, and if your friends get to know about it, they actually will support you at some point. For example, you go to a restaurant, and your client is calling you to have a talk, all right? And your friends get to know that you need to order something, and you are busy talking, and you may be surprised that when you finish talking, the food is in front of you. So it means that your friends already ordered something to you. Right? Now, that kind of support is kind of crucial. Then you may actually ask, how about the conversation with your friends? Yes, although I mentioned that you're going to be with your client 24 hours, it's not like every second, right? You can actually still squeeze yourself a bit of time to have social life, right? I still remember that I actually, I think last month or there's 1 month that actually I traveled to Penang. Really traveling, it means that I really play, okay? So yeah, I actually still receive call, but you just need to inform your client, be honest to them, currently you are traveling, so I may actually reply you late, so please bear with me and so on. Actually, your client most of the time, my client most of the time is quite understanding, right? So you can still strike a balance, right? I always mention is that as long as you're honest to your client, if you do good things to your client, they actually will do the same thing. Right? It's a reflection at some point, right? So this is a balance I have. I still play, okay? I still play. So entrepreneurship doesn't mean that you have no time to play. You just have to make time for it to play, right? And the second question, would you mind to repeat the other 2 questions?
I think it's only one. Another one is
okay.
What is your ultimate goal in your journey?
All right, good. Honestly speaking, I am still identifying. Okay, being in the entrepreneurship doesn't mean that you have a clear goal. I'm actually in the stage of exploring. Okay, now it's fine that you actually explore throughout the whole journey. I feel, all right, because this is where that you want to know where you're going to end, right? And I hope I'm not going to end anyway, because if I put a stop, it means is that I'm going to restrict myself. Okay, my opinion is to continue to put a comma so that things is moving, right? If you put a full stop, it's like people say that, how do you define success? I think it's not good for us to define success, because if you define success, it means that you're trying to restrict yourself how much you want to grow, right? But if you're not going to define a success, then probably I would say that identify failure that you can learn from, right? Because when you learn from failure, you make reflection to improve yourself each time. And when you improve yourself, it means that you're growing exponentially. I think that would be a good aspect to look into. Currently I have no specific life goal. My only goal is that I want to help as much as I can. This is one goal that I set. Number two is that I also bring more people to help more people. All right. So currently, for example, I'm in pediatric. The next stage I'm looking into is to start to receive students or to fresh graduate who are keen to be in pediatric, right? So I'm open to that. Probably it's a 1-month program. You can actually work under me to learn about pediatric care. You can also get the exposure as well, right? That probably will help me to train more people to help more people. So my end goal basically is to help people.
Thank you, Mr. Kafu. I think you know, the passion that you shown to us, the vision that you mentioned to us about life, the life learning process, you see. So I think all of us should embrace that, you know, the value of that, helping people, and us, you know, asking more people to help people, right?
Correct.
Okay. We have like 3 other questions. Okay, from Sister Amira, how to set our service charge at par with what profession market?
Honestly speaking, there's no set rate being put. Right? I can only share with you that private center, the private medical center hospital currently, what's the rate like? It's actually in a range. And the range is getting closer now, right? Last time I remember that they even as low as 30 ringgit per session, go up to 150 per session. It's kind of wide range. And quite a few of medical centers, they have revised the rate to make it closer. I would say that now even have the range of 60 ringgit to 150, that range.
I see.
I get an average number is about 80, 100 per session, right? That one is a private sector. And again, I guess the fresh graduate, somehow rather, it's actually quite justifiable to put your rate as 60 and 80. Now, bear in mind, this is only for your nutrition consultation. You have to ensure that it covers the cost for you to travel, particularly in Malaysia, particularly in KL. You may actually start in the jam. If you're going to conduct consultation, it's just 1 hour. Start in the jam before and after. You may have used up 3 hours throughout the whole journey. So you have to factor it in, okay? But now because of the MCO and so on, it fostered the use of technology. I'm so happy about it because I slowly to use, basically I've converted all my outside consultation into online. I save so much time. I skip all the traffic. Oh my goodness, all right? And also the session can actually end much more in time because they know that's online, all right? Because somehow you know that face-to-face, especially you go home visit, your client can be so welcoming. They're going to serve you dinner, they're going to serve you lunch, they're going to serve you afternoon tea. Your time basically drag, all right? So time management has become crucial. So when it comes to rate, I guess is that we have to factor it in, but so far, my knowledge is in a range of 60 ringgit to up to 150, all right? So if you are going to be a specialized dietitian in a specific field and you're going to manage the complicated cases and so on, you may have to move your rate accordingly, all right? Complicated means that it could be slightly higher. Now, bear in mind, somehow in private practice, you need to consider to look into packages. So it means that one package comes with a few follow-up. Again, you may have to change the rate accordingly, right? My point of view is that do not go below the average rate, because if you go below, it means that it looks like you're going to undermine your services, right? I guess being a dietitian, it's time for us to stand up to show this our expertise. And soon with the Allied Health Act coming out, it's again highlighting our services and competency as well. So we need to set a certain level. Never ever put yourself below certain value, I would say.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ang. Another question. Hello, Mr. Ang. Nisha here. In your opinion, is it appropriate or possible for fresh graduates like us to directly venture into freelancing consultation business on our own? For example, online dietary consultation, delivering talk, or is it better to gain experience from working in companies or organizations first?
Ideally, I feel that for fresh graduate, you should actually shadow someone first, right? Because the 1 year internship or the clinical placement or direct placement in the degree, it may not be sufficient, right, to get to know your strengths and weaknesses. So I would definitely suggest you to shadow someone else, probably a few years, all right? During that few years, I guess you need to really put in a very heavy thought about yourself. You need to honest to be yourself, to make reflection too, okay? Because all this reflection is going to help you to identify who you are, what you're going to improve, where are you going to be, all right? That point, and particularly in dietetics, is like you require a mentor to guide you through, to point to you, what have you done right and what have you done not so right, all right? With that guidance, it actually will help you better, because somehow if you're blindly doing things by ourselves, we may not know what mistake we are made. We somehow just do not know. And somehow, at some point, even you may actually indirectly harming the patient. You may not even know as well. So I think it's good to identify a mentor. Now, again, I know now I have a paradigm shift whereby entrepreneurship may started in the fresh graduate, right? It's fine, but you have to identify a mentor, initiate a case discussion with your mentor, right? Now, case discussion doesn't mean to be only clinical. The discussion should also like discuss about that day I have this experience, all right? This is the admin work that I will do. I'm sure that whether I do this admin work correctly or not. So is there any suggestion for you from you to improve my admin process, right? So do not restrict that. When I say case discussion, it means patient care. Is it mean clinical? No. Make it broader, right? All the aspect that you can ask by yourself, by all means ask, right? Because the more that you ask, the more that you learn. The more that you learn, this is where that you need to make reflection and improve yourself, right? Now don't be shy, especially for fresh graduate. I would say that somehow it's good to be a fresh graduate because no one can actually scold you being innocent and so on. And yes, you are innocent because you're a fresh graduate, right? But by the year that the more years you go on, somehow for you to ask, you can be quite shy, because if you're going to be experienced, you ask something that's is inexperienced, it reflects your image, right? So be open to ask as early as possible, right? This is the advantage being a fresh graduate. So this is my 2 cents. I hope I answered your question.
Yep. That's a lot of input there. One more question is, I think it's something similar, but the question sounds, do we have to get certain certificate or follow any regulations to practice freelance consultation? Or we can start to do that once graduated?
In terms of practice, I don't think, again, after graduation, basically you are considered as a qualified dietitian, all right? The one is for sure. It's just that you are in the entry-level dietitian, all right? Entry-level, it means is that you only can do certain things in that level, right? Like special area, you may not be able to deal with it, then you're required to know how to refer. For example, for me, if someone going to refer for me because of for kids issue, pediatric issue, I may not be able to handle. I need to know who to refer, right? In some cases, like for example, they may have a very severe heart issue. I'm not in the heart area, then I need to know to refer, right? And being a fresh grade also as well, if you are entry level, if you feel that you cannot cope with it, you may actually want to refer. When you go refer, probably one suggestion to you is that refer to a dietitian that experience, the person can handle. If you have a chance, go together with a dietitian, right? To schedule a dietitian to learn from it, right? So I think when you do such a learning scheduling, you definitely will get benefited from it, right? So this is my advice to you. Entrepreneurship, so far there's no law and regulation per se, but again, if you're going to set up a company, of course you need to know what is the law behind it, okay? How you're going to protect yourself and so on, right? So and again, in business, how you're going to get a loan, later on how you're going to report your EPF and so on and so forth. There's much more things for you to learn. So all this is self-study. All right. Now you may actually attend some of the business courses. Now some of the business courses surely will not be specific in dietetics. It could be any other field. It's fine. It's fine. Because sometimes the principle can be quite similar. It's just that you applied it in different things. Right? It's just that the product now is applied to dietetics. Then you have to treat it accordingly. And again, when you're going to attend that courses, it means that you can raise questions, you can ask. Okay? Now, don't stop yourself from learning. Don't stop yourself investing money to attend some of the courses. This is all about lifelong learning. And even things I have learned last time about weight management now have already expired. So things have changed so much. All right. So last time, being a dietitian, we highlight weight so much. But now, by learning, I get to know that I cannot highlight weight so much because weight will cause weight bias, cause mental issues, and so on and so forth. So things change. So we have to move according to science. We keep on update ourselves now. Right? Again, back to your question, entrepreneurship, is any certification required? No. If you're going to apply for any, if you're going to open a company, yes, you need to be aware of the laws and regulation. If you have a chance, attend some of the courses to know how the process is going to be. And throughout the whole journey, you need to invest yourself to grow yourself, right? You need to attend some of the courses, surely with some specialized certification, going to help you to build your credibility, to build your expertise, to improve the client care or patient care later on, right? Some people may even take up a master PhD accordingly, depending on how far you want to go to a certain field. Yeah, my 2 cents.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Mr. Kafu. All right. Any one last question from the participants? Anyone? I think that's all. Is it? Because we're running a bit lengthy. That's okay. This is a very, interesting sharing session. We're very honored to have you shared with us your experience, your tips. Yeah. I hope that we can communicate again. We can do some collaboration in the future.
More than happy. More than happy.
All right. Okay. So I think we end today's session. And thank you so much, Mr. Kafu, for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me too.
Any last words for our fresh graduates here?
Identify your own passion and go along your passion. If some days that you require to face the reality, that you require to somehow hide your passion, all right, then I guess is that you just have to face the reality first. It doesn't mean that you give up your passion. Probably at some days you are ready to pursue your passion, open it up, then go for it. Right? Ready at some point, just probably somehow because financial issue. Right? Deal with the financial first. Deal with what is urgent. Right? It's fine to hide your passion at some point, but it doesn't mean that you cannot express your passion. There's actually nowadays there's so many ways for us to express our passion. Right? So don't solve yourself. I think do not kill off your own passion. It's just that you need to identify ways to do it. And don't forget to ask for help. Particularly if you are lost, I guess somehow it's also good to connect with your senior. And particularly, all your lecturers will be more than happy to give you suggestion and advice. Right? Keep in touch with someone. Do not keep it to yourself. Because if you somehow need help, well, no one going to stop you from asking.
Correct. That's correct. Okay, I'm very reluctant to stop the meeting because I think it's very interesting. Okay, I
And
think that's all for this afternoon session. See you tomorrow night. We have forum. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Kahu.
thanks a lot. Thanks for attending. Thanks for inviting us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.